Growth didn't feel like motivation. It felt like friction. After that night at the desk, Eshan expected something to click. Clarity. Direction. Maybe even excitement. Instead, the next morning felt normal. Too normal. The same alarm. Same tired body. Same warehouse waiting for him. For a brief moment, doubt crept in. What if nothing changes? That thought was dangerous, not because it was loud, but because it sounded logical. And logic is where most people give up. At work, the repetition hit harder than usual. Every box he lifted felt heavier, not physically, but mentally, because now he was aware. Aware that he didn't belong here forever. Aware that time was moving whether he changed or not. Awareness is uncomfortable. It removes the illusion. During lunch break, Eshan sat outside on a metal bench behind the warehouse. Cold wind brushing against his face. He watched people come and go. Some laughing. Some complaining. Most just, existing. He realized something unsettling. No one here was waiting for change. Not really. They talked about it. Wished for it. But their actions stayed the same. And suddenly, a quiet fear hit him. If I'm not careful, I'll become this. That fear didn't paralyze him. It sharpened him. That night, he didn't feel like working on his idea. Not even a little. His body ached. His mind felt slow. But this time, he understood something new. Discipline isn't about doing your best. It's about showing up at your worst. So he made a deal with himself. Just 20 minutes. No pressure. No expectations. Just sit. Think. Try. Those 20 minutes were messy. He stared at the screen longer than he worked. Doubted every idea. Changed directions 5 times. But he didn't quit. And strangely, that mattered more than progress, because consistency was becoming his identity. Weeks passed like this. Small efforts. No visible results. No external validation. Just quiet, repetitive work. And that's where most people break. Because the world celebrates outcomes. But transformation happens in invisibility. Then came his first real attempt. He decided to launch something small. A basic online service helping local small businesses manage simple digital tasks, things he had been slowly learning. Nothing perfect. Just enough to start. He spent nights building it. Learning by doing. Fixing mistakes as they came. For the first time in years, he felt engaged. Not entertained. Engaged. The day he put it out into the world, nothing happened. No messages. No clients. No response. Silence. That silence hit harder than failure. Because failure at least feels like movement. Silence feels like irrelevance. That night, he sat in his apartment staring at his screen. Refreshing. Waiting. Hoping. Nothing. The old voice came back, stronger this time. See? This is why you shouldn't try. You're not built for this. Go back to what's safe. This was the real test. Not effort. Not starting. But continuing when reality doesn't reward you. Eshan closed his laptop. Leaned back. And for a moment, he considered quitting. Not dramatically. Just quietly. Like he always used to. But something stopped him. Not motivation. Not inspiration. Identity. He thought about the last few months. The mornings he showed up. The nights he worked when he didn't feel like it. The small promises he kept to himself. And he realized something simple, but powerful. If I quit now, I go back to being that person. That wasn't acceptable anymore. So instead of quitting, he adjusted. He reached out to people. Asked questions. Offered help for free. Learned what actually worked instead of what he assumed would. It was uncomfortable. Rejection came quickly. Some ignored him. Some dismissed him. Some never replied. But one person did. Just one. A small business owner who needed help managing simple online tasks. It wasn't big. It wasn't impressive. But it was real. That first small yes felt different. Not like success. Like confirmation. Proof that movement creates opportunity. He worked harder on that one opportunity than anything before. Not because it paid much, but because it mattered. It was evidence that he was building something real. Days turned into a new routine. Work. Learn. Build. Repeat. Less distraction. More intention. Still imperfect. Still uncertain. But moving forward. Then came another shift. Not in his work. In his environment. One evening, a coworker invited him out. "Come on, man. You've been acting different lately. Just relax." Old Eshan would have said yes instantly. It was familiar. Easy. Comfortable. But now. It felt misaligned. Not wrong. Just not who he was becoming. He hesitated. And in that hesitation, something important surfaced. Growth often creates distance. Not because you're better than others. But because your priorities change. "I'll pass tonight," he said. The response was immediate. "Wow. You serious? Since when did you become like this?" There was laughter. But underneath it, judgment. That moment stung more than rejection online. Because this was personal. This was his environment pushing back. On the way home, his mind raced. Am I changing too much? Am I isolating myself? Is this even worth it? Change isn't just internal, it challenges everything around you. Relationships. Habits. Comfort zones. But deep down, Eshan knew something: you can't build a new life if you keep protecting the old one. That night, instead of overthinking, he worked. Not to escape, but to reinforce who he was becoming. By month 6, the changes were undeniable. Still not dramatic. Still not success in the traditional sense. But real. He had a few small clients. A growing skill set. A stronger mindset. And most importantly, trust in himself. But just when things started stabilizing, life did what it always does. It tested him harder. One morning, he got called into the warehouse office. Short conversation. Straight to the point. Hours are being cut. Companies downsizing. Just like that. His stability cracked. Walking out of that office, a familiar fear returned. But this time, something was different. The fear didn't control him. It challenged him. Because now, Eshan wasn't just trying to change his life. He had already started. And losing the old one might have been the push he needed. The email didn't look dramatic. No warning signs. No build-up. Just a simple message confirming reduced hours starting next week. Eshan read it twice. Then a third time. Not because he didn't understand it, but because he understood it too well. Less hours meant less money. Less money meant pressure. And pressure had always pushed him back into his old habits. Walking home that evening, the city felt louder than usual. Cars passing. People rushing. Conversations blending into noise. But inside his head, there was only one question: am I actually ready for this? For months, he had been building something quietly. A few clients. Small income. Slow progress. It felt real, but safe. Because his job was still there. Still supporting him. Still protecting him from risk. Now that protection was slipping. And with it, the illusion of comfort. That night, he sat at his desk, but not to work. Just to think. Bills spread out. Numbers written down. Income versus expenses. Reality in front of him. The gap was clear. His small business wasn't enough yet. Not even close. The old mindset returned, but sharper this time. More convincing. More urgent. This is not the time to experiment. Be practical. Stability first. Dreams later. That voice sounded responsible. Mature. Logical. And that's why it was dangerous. Because Eshan knew. That same logic had kept him stuck for years. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. There were two paths in front of him. One safe. One uncertain. The safe path was obvious: find another job. Stabilize income. Pause everything he had been building. Come back to it later. The uncertain path. Double down. Use the pressure as fuel. Push harder into building something of his own. Both had risk. But only one aligned with who he was becoming. That night, he didn't make a dramatic decision. No big speech. No emotional breakthrough. Just a quiet commitment: I'm not going backwards. There was no room for half-effort anymore. He started cutting distractions completely. Less scrolling. Less noise. Less escape. Every free hour became intentional. Learning. Improving his service. Reaching out to potential clients. Refining what he offered. Rejection increased. So did doubt. Some days, nothing worked. Messages ignored. Plans failing. Energy dropping. One afternoon, after multiple rejections in a row, he shut his laptop harder than usual. Frustration built up fast. What am I even doing? For a moment. He slipped. Not completely. But enough to feel it. He spent hours distracted. Avoiding work. Avoiding reality. That old comfort pulled him in quickly. It always did. But something new happened. He noticed it faster. Before, he would have stayed stuck for days. Now. It took him one evening to catch himself. That night, sitting in silence, he said something out loud: slipping is not the same as going back. That distinction mattered. Because growth isn't perfection. It's awareness. The next day. He reset. Not perfectly. But intentionally. And that's where his real strength started showing. Not in never falling, but in how quickly he stood back up. Weeks passed. Pressure increased. Money got tighter. There were nights he barely slept. Running numbers in his head. Calculating how long he could hold on. But something unexpected was happening too. His work was improving. Faster decisions. Better communication. Clearer value. Because pressure forces clarity. One evening, he received a message. A potential client. Bigger than the ones before. Not huge, but significant. They needed consistent work. Ongoing support. Eshan read the message carefully. Then paused. Because this wasn't just opportunity, it was responsibility. The old version of him would have doubted himself immediately. What if I mess this up? The new version asked a different question: what do I need to become to handle this? That shift changed everything. He didn't hesitate long. He responded. Clear. Confident. Honest. Days later. They agreed to work with him. That moment didn't look dramatic from the outside. No celebration. No big reaction. But internally, something locked in. This wasn't luck. This wasn't random. This was built. Every small habit. Every uncomfortable decision. Every moment he didn't quit, it all led here. With that one step forward, momentum started building. More referrals. More opportunities. More belief. Not instantly. Not explosively. But steadily. And slowly. The gap between his expenses and his income started closing. Then one day, he noticed something strange. He didn't feel trapped anymore. Same apartment. Same city. But completely different mindset. Freedom didn't come from his environment. It came from who he became inside it. Months later, he stood in his apartment again. Same spot where he once hesitated between comfort and growth. But now, there was no hesitation. Because he understood something clearly, you don't build a new life by waiting for the right moment. You build it by becoming the person who can handle it. His job. No longer necessary. But more importantly, no longer his identity. Eshan didn't escape his old life. He outgrew it. And that's the part most people misunderstand. It's not about effort alone. Not about motivation. Not about talent. It's about identity. Because when your identity changes, your decisions change. Your habits change. Your standards change. And eventually, your entire life has no choice but to follow. Eshan didn't become successful overnight. But he became something more important, someone who doesn't go backwards. And that's where real transformation begins.